there you are once again. Welcome to this first phase of the program of Press Brief. We start off with the first paper for today, The Dawn newspaper from Limbe reports on back to school. Nalova Lyonga steps in with 10,000 books as she donates these books to school-going children in faculty division. This took place over the weekend. In the Metable Lions, it says Boris Eno call up. We move on to Mamfe Chiefdom. The paramount chief of Mamfe Soku 600 IDPs with didactic materials and tuition fee as a way of promoting education in the first class chiefdom of Mamfe in Manu Division. Southwest Public Independent Conciliator mayors assess progress attained in local governance. This was during a workshop that just concluded recently in Boya. Education boost in Kumba. Kumba 1 Council establishes municipal library. You won't find details on that story of the Dawn newspaper for this morning. Taking you to another Limbe-based publication, The Son of Nobel Waso for this morning says at back to school campaign in Fako, Minister Nalova Lyonga donates books to immortalize Paul Biya. That is what you can find on that set paper, and we'll be talking on that set newspaper on the second phase of the program. And we move forward with former SADP boss Jean-Baptiste Guinea Efar regains freedom after 15 years in Kondengi maximum security prison for allegedly embezzling 2.2 billion CFA francs. Christ Embassy announces reach out worldly with Rhapsody of Realities. Get to read that Christian story on the ear section of The Sun for today. Douala Port Authority steps in to modernize container terminal authority at RTC. You can find details on that set publication for today. Zoom on the U.S. elections. U.S. could elect female president in 2024, according to Professor Ali Muzuri. You get to read more on that publication for today. Taking you now to Cameroon Tribune for this morning, talks of the qualifiers for African Cup of Nations 2025 in Morocco. It says the men of Mark Breeze. That is what Marie Claire is telling us on Cameroon Tribune for this day. We take you to growing global conflict. It talks of dialogue strongly recommended as a solution, where you can find that story on page 5 of Cameroon Tribune for this morning. 2024 Paris Paralympic. It talks of Darcy almost conquered. You can find more on page 65. On page 25 on that set paper for today. La Nouvelle Expression of Sovereign Chunk for this morning talks of electoral registration. It says the last minute of registration that took place on the night of Saturday. That was on Saturday, the 31st of August 2024. Amadou Vamuke incarceration. It talks of indignation from Barrister Akere Muna following the sentence that was passed to former CRTV General Manager Amadou Vamuke. Eto and Gongo, it says Louis Paul Motaze plays the position of a referee between Samuel Etofis and Ferdinand Gongo as the unending saga or fight continues. Away from La Nouvelle Expression, we take you to Lojo for this day. It talks of Yellow Scus. It talks of a security solution for the growth of the press in Cameroon. You can find more on this engagement that MCN Cameroon has taken to be providing or supporting newspaper publishers and others in the press sector of the nation. Moving on to Emmanuel Ngumbe, it talks of the call of the king. You can find more on that set publication of Le Jour of Aman Mana for today. We take you now to the next publication on our disposal, Cameroon Insider, one of the publications of Marie Claire. It says, back to school 1 week away. A textbook conundrum. Again, you can find more on that set paper for today of Cameroon Insider. And Israel-Palestinian conflict. It says Cameroon pushes for two-state solution and civic education on the move. 5 million Cameroonians mobilized. You can find details on that publication of Cameroon Insider for today. Away from Cameroon Insider, we take you now to the Horizon. The Horizon report of future Cameroon. Dr. Mal Fobi Baz Soul to the Horizon. You can find details on that story on page 11. We move on to Fongo and Partners. Real estate offers holiday job to students to boost their back to school and decolonization process of the former UN Trust territory of Southern Cameroon ended on the 1st of October 1960. UN senior political affairs officers tell that paper of the Horizon. You can find details on that set publication for today. Moving on to the Eagle's Eyes talks of constitutional empowerment. It says Ngala invests in 40 young scholars and constitutional action. Bogwi Naomi supports Wowo funds palace renovation. It will take you to the environmental paper of Eco Outlook for this morning. Talks of the park donates books, didactic materials, financial support to boost education in Mwankwe Mbangem locality of the Kope Maningoba division of the Southwest region. And Magbury ICO Cameroon Eye Hospital milestone achievement with over 400,000 consultation. You can find more on that publication for today. We will move on to the next publication. On other sports, the Guardian Post of Christian Guard talks of senior official declares UN cannot grant Amazonia independent. That is what you can find on the Guardian Post for today. The editorial of the Guardian Post says schools needs more protection in the Northwest and Southwest regions. And subdivision of the Northwest region, Lip Royal Strikers win fair Fai and Dinganga Gottloff win the football trophy. Away from that publication of the Guardian Post, we move on to Limbe with the advocate of Tabetang Nobika report on Wututu Ewongo. Stanley Eno top guest closed as Edwin and Salem's football tournament. You get to read more on that competition there that just ended yesterday. And Manfi Paramount Chief team hands didactic materials to 600 internally displaced children living in the town of Manfi. FACO women support 2024 GCE successful FACO students in Boya. You get to read more on that engagement on the advocate for today. That is FAO Nantinge Association. This event took place over the weekend too. We move on to the next publication of Mutation. Mutation is interested in the immigration process in Cameroon, how a lot of Cameroonians are leaving the country to Canada for greener pastures. Get to read more on that story on page 7. And on endings wahala between Fikafoot and the Ministry of Sport and Physical Education, it says, till when will the protagonists be known? Get to read more on that paper of Mutation for today. Lloyd Isahel of Gibe by from the northern region talks of 256 women are notables in the 18th chiefdom in the grand northern regions of the country. And Warawid, it talks of an element of the Inter-Rapid Battalion B was killed by Boko Haram recently, and not 4 colleges are clandestine that has been closed by the North Regional Delegate of Secondary Education. We take you to the Nigerian tabloids. This time around, we start off with the Sun, Daily Sun. Daily Sun for today says agony, anger swirl over on ending fuel scarcity in Nigeria, and Nigerian DNA testing 1 in 4 paternity tests is negative when it comes to paternity tests in Nigeria, as 1 in 4 paternity test cases are negative. We move on to Enugu to set to construct 300 beds in International Hospital. The Sporting Sun for today talks of Napoli coach no way back for Victor Osimhen, and as his strikers to end Crystal Palace point at Chelsea. We take you to Bernardo Silva eclipses Ronaldo's achievement, and Gift Obanjis says he is inspired by legal rights. You can find more on that set Nigerian sports paper for this morning. We move on to the Punch. The Punch talks of force scarcity set to worsen as the Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPCL admits 6 billion US dollars debt, and Nigeria has second highest rate of food insecurity according to one of the richest persons in the world, Bill Gates, who talks on the worrisome situation of Nigerian food insecurity. Aliko Dangote refinery petrol ready for rollout. You can find more on that set paper for today. We'll move away from the Nigerian tabloid to take you to La Voix du Centre for this morning from Cameroon. It talks of the legal procedure. It says it talks of the Reporters Without Borders comes out to talk on the heinous justice system in Cameroon, as former journalist and former Director General of CRTV Amadou Vamoke was condemned to 30 years imprisonment. You get to read more on that said paper for today. Far North region, it talks of another Boko Haram attack leaves many dead and others highly injured, according to Lavado Central for today. Moving forward with the next publication, we will be putting a pause on this first phase of the program in a jiffy. We now move on to this other publication for today. That is the next publication should be. The next publication we take you to Afrique. Le Financier d'Afrique for this morning talks of partnership between the public and private sectors. It says 245 propositions of fiscal sector that needs to be taken into cognizance as for the 2025 fiscal year. And the Gabon junta regime, it talks of water and electricity is a reason for the reconstruction of another hydro dam in Gabon and portable water supply scheme initiated by the man in the military attire who commands the rules over Gabon for now. And that was how we saw it on the first phase of the program. To know me for muscle, as my reviewer and I will be talking through on the various talking points in a jiffy. Once again, you're heartily welcome back from the break. We start off on this first of the second part of the program with our reviewer for this morning, and our reviewer is none other than Lucas Nji, who has always been here for us. So good morning to you, Lucas, and you're welcome.
Good morning, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and let's kick the ball rolling with the first paper for this morning. That is the Dawn newspaper report on back to school. Nalova Lyunga step in with 10,000 books.
Yes, the Minister of
Secondary Education, who is Nalova Lyunga, also decided to join the train with the back to school call, which I've always said that it is a call for everyone to get involved. Reading through the papers, I got the worries of some as I shared with them the information as concerning the cover page of the books, which happens to carry the image of President Paul Biya Bivoundo Bartholomew of the Republic of Cameroon, and some persons have issues with that. In crisis time as such, let us take the facts the way they are. You know, this is for the sake of education, for the people to see. I'm a humanitarian worker, beside being a human rights defender.
Sure.
I'm a humanitarian worker. You know, we run a center that we take care of children who do not have the means to go to school, and to encourage communities to send children to school during this period, down in my 16, which you know is Rere Habit. I want to say that this is a wonderful move. The only issue in that move is we are talking about back to school call in FACO, and come to think about FACO, we are looking at a situation where today, Monday, as we speak, the 2nd of September 2024, gunmen have attacked a car in my 16, and they have set such car at blaze.
A taxi,
for that matter. So imagine that a child picks up a book with the face of Paul Biya, who is seen in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, in a greater part of that area, as the enemy to a people who think their independence depends on him. Imagine what they would do to that child. So the focus is not we should focus on the substance, and the substance is the education of the children. Let us focus on it, and let's forget about whether we want to promote who. Yes, Madam Nalova Lyunga is a member of the CBTN. She is a minister appointed by Paul Biya. She has worked with Paul Biya and Paul Biya's government for long, which is her fundamental human right. It is her right to carry out what she wants to do. But when we talk about humanitarian work, when we talk about things that should not become an issue, when we do distributions of materials, there are materials that we distribute and we avoid any emblem that can jeopardize the functioning and the movement of the people within that particular area. And the objective, because we have to focus also on the objective. What is the objective? She wants to support children to go to school. That's why she could print as much as 10,000 books. The only wahala in it, as the Igbo man may put it, is you have the aspect of the effigy of President Paul Biya on it. And that image, by many, it's not a welcoming image. By many in this area. For example, today is Monday. She is aware that she cannot travel from Yaoundé to Fako division, as the Mokwema will call it, Vako, on a day like this. She is aware that she will be heavily guarded with armored cars. The police will guard her, the B will guard her, the gendarme will guard her, the armies will guard her, the infantry battalions will guard her. And the children whom she is having these concerns to share these books with may not have these people. So this is where we have an issue with that. But for that, if the books were normal on the same platform that we have, where you have normal books without carrying the images of a particular person, I think it would have been okay. And I want to say that parents should, at this point in time, consider the security of their children, because we now have persons who think that their independence depends on certain people and they get offended at anything. And so I want to indeed applaud her move for this. My appeal is, I don't know how do we manage this. My appeal is, we wouldn't have gone into books that should carry the effigy of the head of state. It is their right, but you know, at one point I cannot get up and I go to Taliban and I start telling the government in place, or to Afghanistan, pardon, and I start telling the Taliban government that girls have rights to go to school. Girls have rights to go to school in that very hot spot of Afghanistan, in Kabul. They will shoot me down. But if I meet the government in Kabul and I tell them, you know, education is a right of the child, let us manage and see how we can take these children to school without considering the fact that you are the government in place. Let us see how, because you have to be diplomatic.
Of course.
In my back to school call that I have been placing, which you know, for the last 5 years counting, we have been on the ground encouraging children to go to school, but we also recognize the fact that the ground on which we stand is not a very good one. But we will call, because we know that education is a fundamental right of the child. And that right is a right which I always say should not be tampered with. That is the phrase I will use. It should not be tampered with. It shouldn't be something that we should play with. Yes, we stand with hearts to encourage children to go back to school. But our concern in this, how wonderful move is, how should children, because Fako is not limited to Limbe. You have children in Muyuka. You have children in Boya. You have children in Limbe. In Ejino. You have children in Tiko. Let's take the fact, in Makanga, in Muyuka, can you pick up such a book and give to a child to take to school? That child will not be guarded in that school. So I don't know how we have to manage this, but I want to say that we should not chase the shadow and forget about the substance.
Definitely.
We know that education is a substance. Let us send children to school. And to the non-state armed groups, I know that these are things that you may find it very worrisome, because you think someone is trying to thwart your effort in your area. I'm a humanitarian worker. I'm a human rights defender. I also defend your right, because beside your plight for a state, there is something you need to note, that if the government of Cameroon finds you guilty and the international court finds you guilty, there is still some rights that you reserve, that I will still protect those rights. Okay. So you need to understand that education should not be something that we have to bargain with. When you come out and say school should start in October or 2 weeks after the September 9, how do you place the children you have consent for in these regions who are competing with those in Douala. GCE starts on the same day. These children will be behind. So we should reconsider. If you want this, your fight for independence, to have grounds, to have that stamina, then we have to consider the education of the children, because I tell you the truth, I have always told you, the gun you're carrying, an educated person fabricated that gun. How do you expect that the jacket you're putting on, the bulletproofs that you carry, an uneducated person cannot design those?
Of course not.
Someone who has been to school will need to design that. So we should consider that the physician, the person who studied physics, or the physicists who studied physics and came out with the gun you're carrying, how do these children need to get this education? We have those who are into science. I see you out there with improvised explosive devices. Do you know that that is physics? And the children need to go to school. So we should allow children go to school, please, because they need this education. Once again, Madam Nalova, it's a wonderful move, ma'am. My worry is, how do we manage children in Makanga? How do we manage that child who lives in my 16, who will be attacked because that book? Because I would love to see children also having the book you have given. It will go a long way in helping them. I would love to see these children who cannot afford it.
Can they tell the picture of
it would, I tell you the truth.
I think that that should be the way out.
Yes,
because,
Hilary.
To those who live in the context of the Anglophone armed conflict, it's quite worrisome.
Yes.
Children on the left have seen children being killed, have seen children being molested, and despite their little age that they possess. So, Lucas, we'll leave that.
Thank you.
Issues, or we move on to Indomitable Lions Call. This time around, a 24 young man all the way from Manu Division, in the person of Boris Eno Takang, who is playing with DC United in the United States of America, was called up to play for Team Cameroon according to the Dawn newspaper. The Dawn newspaper carries that story on page 5.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You know, when I got the news that Boris had been called up, I went to do some findings. Then I think I noticed that he is amongst the same Eno. Then I said, come on, it's like in Manu. We now have the Eno who are indeed very formidable when football is concerned. They are prolific, and he too is a midfielder.
Yeah.
Great. Then I said, wow, this is wonderful. You know, and one thing that also caught my attention was the fact that the young man previously has been very humble in this career, especially with his current team. He has been called up to join the Lions, and we know that this is what we talk about, the management of Fecafoot. I know so many persons out there would have loved to see many more join these people. But I want to say that, yes, McBreeze and others made the call, and Boris is called. Eno is called. I think it would be a great name to mention Eno, so we should know where he's coming from. I'm happy. I was particularly very happy. I tell you the truth. I'm a Cameroonian and I'm from the Anglophone extraction. And I have lived my life entirely with persons who are coming from this area where Eno is being called. You are there, you are coming from that same area. I'm coming from this area where predominantly my friends are people from this. And I want to say that the young man is relatively very talented. 24, I think he's going to do great.
All right.
I want to join the family that came out, celebrated this, that. We have to do more. And I want to speak to him as a person that this is only a wonderful call for youth to join the Indomitable Lions. Previously, those who were called, it was a larger party than what I observed in your home. And I want to say this is what Fecafoot stands for, that players who are coming from the local league should be called.
Okay.
In 1994, I think, or so, we know the player. We have only 6 players.
Yeah, a chunk of the players. So
they came from
domestic league,
great,
from Cameroon,
and they performed well in USA '94.
Of course.
So I know that this is what we have wanted, and Fecafoot is exactly on the right path to enable local players achieve their dreams and their aspirations. Right. We have professionalized our league. Therefore, they should perform, and they are performing, and this is why you find the likes of Eno, who is being called today, Takang Eno, who is being called today, to join the other Eno who had been there before. And I say this is wonderful. And parents need to note that when we talk about Fecafoot bringing our football back to the doorsteps of parents. Previously, we knew that players would perform well and they would call others who play in Europe, who play in other countries other than Cameroon. But today, the management of Fecafoot wants to see many more being called up. Okay. And that is why they have decided that in order to have this, they need to boost the local industry. I call it the extraction industry.
All right.
And the primary industry needs a lot of good players. And we are having the likes of Takang Eno, who is being called up today to join the likes of Fai Collins Ngora, who had been called to the game that we have on the 7th in Gara.
Okay, Lucas, quickly we move on to this other story from the Dawn newspaper. On page 9, he says, this concerns you because you hail from that locality. Blackouts in my 16 Bolifamba neighborhood. Residents protest of 6 months power outage in some of the localities in my 16 Bolifamba neighborhoods. They took their frustrations to the head office of Enyo Boya.
Yes, and it was prompt. It was prompt. Thereafter, Enyo, the next day, Enyo was on the ground.
But it baffles me. How come it's possible for persons in a certain locality to live for 6 months?
Well, you know, we live in a country where everything is deteriorating, and the central government, the executive, in this case, is doing little or nothing to actually ensure that the people get to live the life they have to live. I want to say this categorically clear. I listened to Fru Jonathan some time ago on CRTV. He talked about the fact that we cannot actually process, we cannot extract the bauxite that we have because it takes a lot to go through it. We need a lot of energy. And then I start asking questions. The essence of the so many dams that we have heard, the Memvele, the Menkim, the Songlulu, and the rest, the Nashtiga and the rest that we all know in Cameroon. What is the reason for us to commit billions of francs CFA yet we stand on the same, the inertia is still, we are still there always. So I think it is some gross mismanagement of the state resources by companies that we have privatized this to. Their focus is they want to make their cash at the detriment of the people. For no reason should a people be cut away from power supply, no matter what happens. Now, how do you take an economy such as that which we have 2035 to emerge? Because an emergence of an economy or an emerging economy is summarily the economy that has regular power supplied to rotate its wheel, to actually rotate the economy. Hospitals to ensure that when people get sick, they go back and they are treated. But looking at the situation of electricity that we know, we have hospitals today that depend on electricity to manage the people. We have companies that manages other things that depends on electricity. So how do you manage this? The people within this particular area, which covers, I think, about 4 different quarters within the My 16 community. For example, you have the quarter 5, the quarter 6, you have quarter 3, you have quarter 7, partly, you have quarter 2 that do not have constant power supply.
Not even power supply.
Yes, that have been blackout for 6 months counting.
Do not have constant. Look at the light has been coming.
Yes, they were there for 6 months counting.
There for 6
Within that area, we have people who are seamstress. We have tailor. We have people who depend on the electricity. We have barbers. We have other small companies. We have sawmills within that particular area. So the people stayed for over 6 months counting. And when they decided and staged a march protest to the divisional headquarters of Enyo in Boya, they got a prompt response. Enyo was down in My 16 to look at exactly what they need to do to put up certain things. And they observed that the transformer in that area is bad. And it should be recalled also that the non-state armed groups at one point in time had attacked that particular area where they shot that same transformer within that area. So Enyo claims that they have regularly replaced that transformer. But I want to say this to Enyo.
I don't know. How comes you go and attack a transformer?
No, you need to note that in the black. Let me tell you, in conflict time, as such as what we have, we are in conflict. We are in conflict. The war in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, which have been earlier thwarted by some ministers in this country, should not go further, because when you present such pictures, you make the people to think that they now live in heaven, whereas they are still living on earth, and the things are not the way they are in heaven. Yes, we are in conflict, and the conflict, as we all know, at a particular point, it becomes some kind of a hit and run conflict where the non-state armed groups will attack that same area. The non-state armed group, where you have the transformer that supplies those people, the non-state armed groups in time past had attacked that particular area where they burnt, I think, 3 cars within that particular area. And a snack was actually attacked within that particular area. So NAO claims that they have once replaced the transformer that was attacked by the non-state armed groups. And they claim that we have arbitrary connections to the transformer where at one point the transformer is overloaded, at one point the transformer has unbalanced loading. But the question is, the people also of that area need to, because I took out time where I had to cancel some persons within that particular area. I told them, as much as it is your fundamental right to have electricity, water, and the rest that should be provided by the state of Cameroon, at one point we also have to be responsible in the sense that we should not allow people connect when they do not have circuit breakers leading to their homes. We should not overload a particular line. We should not be involved in unbalanced loading, because these are things that the negative effect will go back to the transformer. Sure. So in the course of this, I had to also go down to the field to understand what was happening. Then I noticed that beside NAO being wicked at one point in time, the community, the people within that particular area, within that community, that set area, those the aforementioned, the quarters, they were now connecting to the transformer arbitrarily. They did not follow the norms to connect. And the effect is that the transformer will get bad. Now, NAO claims that they have actually decongested certain transformers. That is why if you come to the My 16 neighborhood, particularly in Bulifamba, you will notice that we have about 4 to 5 transformers in different areas. So according to NAO, persons who connect on this line should not congest the other lines. That is why they have struggled to decongest. So when you connect on a particular line, the transformer, at the end of the day, it will explode. And they also claim that during this period, the non-state armed groups certainly will not want them to come and work during certain days. But I want to say this. Yes, we have seen the NAO working in other areas beside the aspect of the non-state armed groups. And another worrisome aspect is some unscrupulous workers from NAO had said the said area should purchase their transformer. The people had begun making contributions.
Because they argued that they don't pay electricity.
Good. The people had begun making contributions. And some had made contributions to the tune of 2 million plus that they want to have their transformer. But NAO says, no, you don't pay for your transformer. Rather, pay your bills, because NAO had also suggested that the people within that area, or proposed that the people in that area should subscribe to prepaid meters. That with prepaid meters it will be easier for them to manage.
Say they cannot endanger the lives of their workers.
Great. But the people also in the area said prepaid meters is not an issue. You first of all get us connected. We want to see the transformer working before we can talk about prepaid meters. So it is not only in that area. We have other areas such as Quarter 9 within the same Bulifamba community that the people still do not have regular power supply. Exactly. So it is something that we have to look into. But I want to say that we should also manage the system with the NAO, because desperate times calls for desperate measures.
All right, Lucas, we'll leave it at that, because if we go on, you can talk on and on, because you hail from that particular locality. I see where the frustration comes from. We move on to La Nouvelle Expression of Sovereign Choco. It talks of the last electoral registration for the year 2024 as stipulated by the Cameroonian law. It says the last minute registration of Cameroonians on Elecam's list. This was over the weekend.
That was on Saturday, on the 31st.
Yeah, in towns and cities like Douala, Yaoundé, we saw massive turnout of persons go. I don't know, Cameroonians, they love last minute stuff.
Yes, loving last minute, on the other hand, is the right of the individual. People have different schedules. What I was rather happy was the turnout. I'm happy of the turnout. The people turned out massively to have their name registered in Elecam's list, so that they too should be eligible to elect whoever they will come 2025. And I want to say that on this note, we should not also forget the fact that after the 31st, the list will also be opened again on the 1st of January. 2025, which may have to run for about 6 months or thereabout again, and the list will be closed for elections to take place in October 9,
which will be
maintaining the calendar.
a Sunday.
A Sunday presidential elections. So we have to respect this fact, and I want to say that those who have registered, stay positive. It is now time for you to understand what I've always considered to be the CV of persons who want to lead the country. You are the electorate. Those who went and registered for elections, they are the electorate, as known in political science.
Sure.
And the electorate is the boss. So right now, what you need to do, you who is the boss, is you have to now wait and start receiving the CV of the different political parties. You check their CV. Can this person manage Boya? Boya have been with death all over the street. Yaounde have been with death all over the street. Limbe have been with death all over the street. This person claimed that if I should give him the opportunity, would he be able? Now you consider that person. You go to the next CV. You look at it. Once you identify the person who can manage this country, when that time comes, it should not be limited to your registration.
Okay.
You have to go out and vote.
All right, Lucas, we move on to page 9 of La Nouvelle Expression. This time around, the infighting between Samuel Eto'o and the Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Gongo. It says when the Minister of Finance, Louis Paul Motaze, becomes the referee of this fight. What do you make of the neutrality position of Louis Paul Motaze? Many describe him as a wise man because he says, I'm not subscribing neither for you nor for you. So he's in between. And now Sovereignty captures him as a referee of the match.
Yes, he is a referee of the match in the sense that his neutrality has been observed like the Belgian neutrality that we were taught of in history. Oh,
Yeah.
I want to say that the fighting in Fecafoot is not indeed a fight, though it is captured as a fight. Mm-hmm. It is not a fight in the sense that, for those who do not know, FIFA has made a recent statement, which is, I think, should be about 8 hours old or so. And despite the call from the presidency by the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency, His Excellency Ferdinand Gongo. Fecafoot is not in any way fighting the state of Cameroon, and the state of Cameroon is not in any way fighting Fecafoot. Fecafoot, for those who do not know, is simply an institution put in place by FIFA to run its football activities in every country. So we have Cameroon Football Federation, for example, in Cameroon. We have others in other countries. And when things are not right, FIFA will simply step in and suspend Cameroon. I listened to a journalist who also doubles as a chief, says if FIFA comes and suspend Cameroon, a normalization committee will be put in place. Cameroon will be suspended from its activity. A normalization committee will not be put in place, which means neither the government of Cameroon will be touched. But you know what will happen? Samuel Eto'o, who is the head of Fecafoot, will still have that which he is having, in the sense that he will not stop being the ambassador. He will not stop being what he is. When FIFA have certain things, they will still call him. When CAF have certain things, they will still call him. So rather,
an endorsement will keep on coming his way.
Endorsement will keep coming his way.
That comes with a lot of cash.
Great. Rather, we should focus on the fact that people like Takang Eno, thanks to the proper management of Fecafoot today, is being recognized of his talent by McBreeze and the team which is in charge of selecting players. Because he was not called to the national team by Fecafoot. He was called to the national team by the people who do the selection for players to play in the national team. And so, what we see here is the proper management of Fecafoot has led to the recognition of local players, such as Douala, who went for the Nations Cup.
The 16-year-old.
Great. Douala, the 16-year-old. And today we have Eno, who is the 24-year-old, who has been called, and many others that will be called, because their performance is now seen thanks to the proper management of Fecafoot. So I think the presidency should take its hands off football activities. We understand that the argument that some people have out there is that the government is the one paying for the management of this. As such, they expect the government to be there. No, we are not removing the government. When we say the government should take off, we are expecting that competence should be applied. People with the management prowess should be allowed to manage, because managing football requires something different other than administration in a country.
Definitely.
Football administration is not political administration.
And it's not academic with
It's not
appellations of doctors and professors.
No. It has to do with he who understands the game, the laws of the game, the norms of the game, which I think Samuel Etofis have understood this for many years. I am not his fan. I always said this. I'm not his fan.
You are just like Louis Paul.
Great. I am only there to look at what is right. So the Cameroon government should make available the cash required to manage the national team and allow the person with the competence to manage the national team.
All right, from that paper of Severin Chenka, we'll make a stop over to Yaoundé with Lavado Santra. Lavado Santra for this day talks of the judicial process of Amadou Vamouki. He says on the heinous justice system of Cameroon. That is what the publisher of Lavado Santra, who doubles as the representative of Reporters Without Borders in the world to Cameroon, who published that story. So many are condemning this verdict that was passed on former CRTV Director General, a senior journalist par excellence, who practiced with the state print Cameroon Tribune before being appointed as the Director General of CRTV. 30 years imprisonment after spending close to 15 years in. This is the second judgment that is coming to Amadou Vamouki. And what do you make of this caption of the heinous justice system in Cameroon?
It is not a heinous justice system. I want to debunk that. In line with what Amadou Vamouki has received, I know many Cameroonians do not know. And then, did you know that if you should embezzle from 500,000 upwards in Cameroon, you could serve about 20 years in prison?
Sure, according to the law. But we are talking in a context where we have seen some other persons who spent 15 years in imprisonment. They embezzled 2.2 billion. I'm talking of the former Director General of the Cameroon Petroleum Deposit Company, SADP, as it's known in French, Jean-Baptiste Ngini Efa. We are equally talking of the former Minister of Basia Tanakuna of Water and Resources and Energy. They left prison and they said they paid the money, and especially like Jean-Baptiste Ngini-Efa, he has not paid a 2.2 billion CFA francs that he is being accused of embezzling in after.
We have to understand the clemency power awarded or being given to the President of the Republic of Cameroon. I always implore persons to first of all understand the justice system. Then you understand the Cameroon Constitution. The Cameroon Constitution surpasses every other law in Cameroon, and also is in line with every other law in Cameroon. So what you need to understand is Amadou Vamouki is not hated. We are talking about a system that Amadou Vamouki served while he was working at Cameroon Tribune. He was appointed still by the same government in place, and he would later on be appointed the Director General of CRTV by the same government in place. And today he's not being charged of spying into the state of Cameroon, rather he's being charged of embezzlement. And I am talking about the Cameroon penal code. If you look at the penalty for persons who embezzle, so they know exactly what is involved. But you know, the issue of Paul Biya is my father, Paul Biya is my this, I know Paul Biya, I know Chantal Biya, I know Ferdinand Ngongo, I know Sawem Vonayolo. This is the mentality most of these people have. And with such mentality, they forget the fact that there is law in place that any of the above mentioned may not be in power tomorrow. And when these persons are not in power tomorrow, you do not have immunity. They forget the fact that they do not have immunity, and they go about embezzling. I am already speaking on the aspect of embezzlement because it has been proven with fact by the court, the competent court, that Amadou Vamouki embezzled. And the clemency of the head of state decided and take off persons like Jean-Baptiste and Ngini Jean-Baptiste Ngini,
Guinea Efa.
and Bazi and
And
Tanganakuna,
others.
and others whom he has pardoned. So it is
But
it is within his
hold on,
presidential prerogative.
Lucas, let me come in here.
Yes.
Pardoning someone without reimbursing the money, does that make sense in a state, in an economy like Cameroon, where things are, inflation is skyrocketing, unemployment is getting out of control, and things are, roads are deplorable, talk less of Yaoundé being the capital city of the country, being in a
Littered
mess and everything scattered? Is this a moment of doing, playing, how can I even put it, the Godfather, or playing the goodwill ambassador? Why not take action by saying this money that was stolen, we need it at the state treasury? Guinea has not returned a dime of the 2.2 billion that he theft. He is being accused of stealing.
Well, take note that we are talking about in Guinea. In this case, I want to limit it to what the law states. He was only being accused by the same state.
And they said the set law, the special criminal court that was put in place in 2012 by President Paul Biya found him guilty of all these charges.
Yes, they found him guilty of all the charges at this particular point in time. You should not forget that Biya is the head of the judiciary. So at the end of the day, it will entail that if we find these things not working, we should repeal certain laws that govern this. The court that was set up in 2012 was to some as a political tool to actually hold down persons who want to compete with him. You get it? Whatever be the case, I am actually bringing to you what the Cameroon Penal Code says, which in this case, that court operated within the ambit of that particular law that is in place and the Constitution of the Republic, which states that if you embezzle from this amount to this amount, life imprisonment may likely be your portion, or 20 years in prison or thereabout. So at the end of the day, Amadou Vamoke is aware that he embezzled. By the court, he is aware. He knows that he embezzled. Now, our focus should be, like you raised, to retrieve this cash that is being hijacked somewhere, maybe in someone's house, because hoarding is certainly taking place. That money is probably being buried in Guinea's house. If at all, Guinea also collected the 2 billion or so CFA francs. But now, the presidential clemency, or the clemency coming from the president, that's the presidential pardon, he decided. And I want to say that the president, as per law, it is said that he can discontinue, he can call for the discontinuance of the case or suspend the case. So, in Guinea's case is being suspended. And it doesn't mean that Guinea's case has been ruled out completely. He is out of Kondegi, but there is a possibility that someday he could be called back. It is the same thing with Bazi and Tanganakuna, who would later on dress as a woman to leave the Republic of Cameroon. It's quite terrible. I'm sorry. These guys are terrible. Sometimes they are disgusting in their act.
All right,
you get it?
We'll leave it at that.
So we should note that the presidency and the power given to the presidency by the Constitution is what we have to work to repeal. And it goes back to the electorate. Do you like this kind of justice system? And to you, those embezzlers, you know, you embezzle money. When you embezzle the, what do you think? This is where you find yourself. Your cities are nasty. He too should understand that at the time he deified Paul Biya. Go to the images that CRTV projected in the days of this said guy and the things he said as concerning Paul Biya. Go to Cameroon Tribune. You will understand that he is actually gnashing his teeth right now, because there is a man he has exalted as his God, and today the God has actually brought the law before him. The good thing with Paul Biya is relatively a constitutionalist. Paul Biya is a legalist. I always say this thing, many people do not understand. Paul Biya knows what law is going to hold you down. Paul Biya knows what law. So he respects the law. He could give you the liberty you expect. And when it is time, Paul Biya will bring the law and put before you.
All right.
And when you see the law that he put before you, you will find Paul Biya not being wicked, but the law working in place.
Okay, we'll move away from that in Guinea and Amadou Vamoke's situation to Limbe with the advocates of Tabeta Yanginobika report on Tutu Ewongo Stanley Eno, top guest close to the Edwin Eselem's football tournament.
Yeah.
And this will happen to last Sunday, which was yesterday.
It's another Eno.
There you go. There you go.
It's another Eno.
There you go.
You get it. So I don't know. I may have to adopt Eno.
Okay.
If you please, I may adopt Eno as a name.
I just reiterate, SLM has been a journalist by excellence, a communication expert.
Yeah.
He's still a communication expert as
Great.
he's the public relation officer of the NBA for Africa, for basketball.
Great.
Africa.
He organized this holiday sports to bring kids together.
Where millions are being put in.
Great.
This time around, I think he spent close to 5 million.
Great. Committed such whooping amount, quite colossal, to see that young person should, why not come back, enjoy themselves.
And he's an excellent officer.
Great. It's okay. I know. Why would you not speak more about him? Because you all come from Sase. But I think it's wonderful because at the end of the day, we have seen the need for such holiday sports. And I want to say that, Stanley Eno, another Eno, he knows how to grace an occasion. Yes. And he graced and greased the occasion because the people were relatively very lubricated to the extent that the joy that left at that particular spot on that day, it was wonderful. We want to thank the organizers, and we want to see more of things like this because we want that they should take in more to also bring out talent.
Sure.
And I want to believe that Stanley Eno being there on that day, a young man was inspired.
Of course.
And certainly there will be another Eno that will come up someday.
I hear you.
So which is wonderful. We appreciate that so much. The communication officer for NBA for Africa, it's wonderful. It's a good idea. I will have to appeal that we should take it across. Yeah. I think subsequently, given that he is watching, given that his team is watching, subsequently let us target the less privileged.
Of course. And there was this school donation exercise too.
Yeah.
Otutu has been one of those communities in
hot heat.
Yeah, in Fako where
it's still very hot.
I visited that area in 2017. The village was deserted. Yeah, because the separatist fighters, they were really.
You could see them very visible.
Yeah, their presence
every single minute.
Yeah, their presence were felt in Otutu, and the villagers in Otutu had to leave Otutu for other neighboring safety localities. Lucas, let's pack our bags out of the studio with this last story on the Advocate newspaper. It talks of Mafe Paramount Chief team hands didactic materials to more than 600 internally displaced children and vulnerable kids in Mafe town. These ones are books without Bobia space, of course.
Beautiful, beautiful.
His Royal Majesty Chief Dr. Godson Oben thought it wise to promote education as more than 600 internally displaced persons from Widikum, from Batibo, from Akwaya, and from other localities. They were all there to receive these didactic materials and an envelope for their school fees. And I doff my hat to the paramount ruler.
Yes, His Royal Highness, I hail you. Let me hail you. You are doing great. You see, Africa has always been with this kind of people. The war in the northwest came and made most of them to flee the villages. Africa has been with this kind of people. We have had traditional rulers who consider the people first. This is the move. And this is a move without boundary. Like I always say, builders without boundary. This is a move without boundary. Whether you're coming from Frunkankan, whether you're coming from Furawa, whether you're coming from Nwa, because Mamfe is a town that, as it is in the former British Southern Cameroons, the role Mamfe played, Mamfe is still playing that role today. So we know how Mamfe is an area with all walks of life. Mamfe is an area that carries every nature of person. Everybody you would imagine in Cameroon, you will find them in Mamfe. And this is a move that seeks to ensure that children go back to school. And we all say, back to school, which is a call every year, is as a result of the ongoing senseless war in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. That led to many children taken out of school, and they are now discouraged. The worst is the price of cocoa today in some localities, as I gather from some of my focal points. Some children in certain areas say, my 4,000 and my 5,000 francs per kilogram cocoa is better to manage than that school owner, the talk safe. This is because many of these children who would have been in school at a certain age had outgrown certain classes as they consider themselves, and they are ashamed to go back to certain classes. And that is why you see every year we come out to call up back to school. And today, you see a chief with over 600 children. That is a very wonderful project. I wish I had the means to partner with him to see that children go to school, to partner with him only by a call that children should go back to school in that locality, because I know the number of children who have been out of school within that particular area.
All right, Lucas, that was the most we could take for today. Thanks so much for coming.
It's a pleasure. I wish to also say that Herbert says the doors are still open for children to go to school, and children within the My 16 community should know that the doors of Herbert are open, and especially the internally displaced and the less privileged. If you do not have the means, please don't hesitate to contact Herbert. We are still there for you. I want to thank the community and especially the teachers. They have been doing great. And I want to thank every school that is opened in My 16. Please, we want to take out that disease called illiteracy. The kids need to be in school. So Herbert says the doors are still widely open for kids to go to school.
All right, and thank you so much for the privilege of your company right up to this final moment that we'll be parting with. But do not move a muscle. More interesting programs are coming your way here on High Television, as Press Brief is back tomorrow exactly 9 a.m. Goodbye.